function to another folder where the HTML's at?
Can you say that again?
Does it go from, I know it goes from the big URL to the URL,
Yeah.
and then it goes to the function that's named in the little URL.
Yes.
And then from the function, it goes to a folder or the basic, just the HTML itself?
From that function, we do have the ability to use this render method, and this render method will automatically look inside a templates folder. And that templates folder will contain the name of, or the path to whichever file is within the template folder that you want to access.
Okay, cool.
Marcos?
Is there a better name for it than like big URL? Would you call it
Better name?
project URL?
Project URL and app URL, the library URL.
Something like that.
This would definitely be the library URLs.
Oh yeah. But I mean, like it just in general would be like project URL down to
This
the app URL.
Project URL.
Right, so it's
Sure.
gonna take the URL and the project.
Mhm.
It needs to go get directed to this app, and this app has a bundle of URLs.
Yes, a bundle.
So if you have multiple apps.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Seems a lot less foggy.
It takes a while to get.
But I understand why you want to do it like a lot of repetition.
Yes, repetition. There'll be a lot of repetition this week.
Just so like it becomes second nature there. People like this, right?
Yeah, don't feel bad if you don't get it yet, because we're gonna be spending all week on this. Just introducing a little more each time. So we kind of got sidetracked from the actual library app that we're building. You know, I like sidetracking, but then sometimes we don't finish. But you should go through and do this yourself. I think that would be much more valuable than watching me do it. Not just copy and pasting each file. Like when you can just copy and paste this whole thing in there, and just copy and paste this whole thing in there, et cetera, and it'll all work. However, the way I want you to do it is to start with a path. So we made this path. And after you make that path, you make this view, which is down here. After you make the view, it will render this template here. And so on and so forth. And you're going to make the HTML for it, which is down here. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste this. Could you imagine watching me type this? In booklist.html. Let's go over what... I'm going to keep this, my silence link. I have a header called books. Right now, this is all gonna kind of blow up. So I'm gonna remove some stuff. All right, ooh, no reverse match, book new, not found. That's because we haven't written, this named route doesn't exist yet.
I have a question. Let's say we weren't in debug mode. Would that page still render even though it doesn't have the proper information?
We were not in debug mode. Let's refresh it first. Oh, now it works. But let's say put that back and it doesn't work. Good question. I'm kind of curious to see if I can turn on debug mode. So when we deploy this app, we don't want this to be true. Oh, that's what we get.
Okay, so it blocks it for security.
Oops, wait. Gosh. I'm not sure.
8,000.
Hmm? I don't know if the port number matters. Does it? Anyway, yes, we want to. This is too much of a sidetracking.
Yeah, your server crashed. So
Hmm.
because you didn't have your last list, the server crashed.
Oh, I need to restart the server.
Yeah.
All right. So it looked for this named route that isn't there. I'm actually gonna move these and have we looked at tables before in HTML?
No.
So a table will have a head and a body, and inside the head will have all these headers, these table headers, and they'll live inside what I think of as a tray. And you'll have the same number here of headers as you will the content for those headers down here. So when you make a table, you have to make sure you have the same number here and here, and they'll just correspond directly. I'm gonna get rid of these. Oops. Or just gonna get rid of these. And now I have my simple table and it's empty. For a book in all books. So can someone explain this to me?
So that's actually.
Herlane? Have we gone over this yet? Jinja templating? This is,
I think so, but I can't really remember that part.
okay. So this is weird Python you have an end for, like that lives inside of HTML, and it's just gonna loop through a variable, which we haven't given it yet, and display the titles and pages of our books. Now, in my views, I need to give it this context. And right now I can say, so what should I put in here? If my for loop needs a variable called all books, I need to give it
A list of books,
a list of books.
with titles, and
All right. So can someone walk me through how I would do that?
we haven't written our model yet.
We haven't written our model.
You could kind of,
But if we had written our model, how would I do this?
so book.objects.all.
Book. I like it. Book.objects.all. That'll give me all my books. Assign that to a variable. Since I called that all books, I'm gonna just make it a little different to avoid confusion. And here, I'm going to make an object. I think that's the right syntax, right? By making this key all books, I'm giving this something to look at. And it's going to contain all my books. But Ethan was right, I need to make a model. So from models import book. And I'm going to make a model here. Class book. Oh, it's going to have to, thank you, models.model. And what are some column names I need here? Well, obviously title and pages. Mm, mm. All right, what else is in a book?
Offer.
Author? Price?
Published date.
Why am I typing this? I could have copied it. I'm sorry, what was that, David?
Published date.
Published date. I hate dates. Let's do. This is also going to be an integer. Let's just keep it at that for now.
Yeah.
All right. Now, let's create some books in our database. What does this? Why does this error keep showing up?
You have migrated your data migrated.
So you leave the problem, I need to do the migrations and migrate.
I have to create my migrations and migrate my changes to database. Jesse, when do I need to migrate and when don't I need to migrate when I'm changing my database?
I mean, you really have to migrate after. I guess the ideal thing is to migrate after you have all your models basically set up. That way, you're not migrating like all the time. But if you were to make changes or anything like that, you can use make migrations. That way, you can always go back.
Yes. So whenever I make changes to the structure of my database, I'll need to migrate. I don't have to migrate. Yes, Marcos? I don't have to migrate when I'm just modifying the data in my database. If I want to write a new book into the database, I don't have to migrate to do that. However, if I'm changing how many columns the book table has or what the max length of something is, I'm going to have to make an alter table or add column command in SQL. And those commands, they're not insert or select, those commands need to live in a migration.
With that said, so I kind of talked about it a little bit. What we've done is jump on the shell. We've been putting things to the shell.
Mm-hmm.
If you had a seed file, which I haven't seen how this.
Oh, a seed file.
Is that
Mm-hmm.
something you would do, and do you migrate the seed file?
You don't have to migrate a seed file. What you would do in an app where all your data is trash, it's just fake data for you to test your app. They're not actual users' information that are valuable to people. You can just drop the database, lose all your data, create it again, run all your migrations in the correct order to get it to the state that you want, and then after you migrate, you would run your seed file. And what a seed file is well, let's do that. Well,
So
I
follow-up question.
Uh-huh.
Migrating is not a way to seed it. Seeding is
migrating
outside
and
of-
seeding they're totally separate.
Okay. That's mainly my question. I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you can't actually seed until after you've migrated and actually set up your database, right? You can't actually throw the thing.
Rather be nowhere for
The only time that you actually need to migrate is whenever you're making changes to that database.
You came to the structure of the
Yes.
Change to the structure of the database.
Yeah.
And to seed it properly, you would have to know the present structure. I made a new window tab here, and I lost my virtual environment because it's a different instance. So I'm going to check to see if my virtual environment folder is there, and it is. I'm going to source it. My computer's slow. And now I have my virtual environment. How do I make migrations?
Just like that.
And then I have to run my migrations. All right. Now we were talking about seeding. And all a seed file is those commands that we've been running in the shell, just in a file. So you don't have to type them every time you change the database, because when you dropped your database, you destroyed all that dummy data that you spent all that time typing these shell commands to create. If we had just a normal file, I'm not actually familiar with where the best place is to put it, but if you just had some Python file, you could just run it inside your shell. So how do I open my shell? First, okay, I'm gonna not use Django extensions. This is gonna be a little harder. And I'm just gonna use the normal shell. And now when I try and say book isn't defined. So I have to import it from is that right? So I do have access to that model now. So I'm gonna create some books. And let me just do it in a file. I'll do it right here. Book, and the title is gonna be, give me a title.
It's actually 1,237.
237.
It's much shorter.
Oops.
Sure.
It's an integer. And is who? Oh, I thought it was, okay.
So we don't need a database for this right
We don't, oh.
now?
What's the price?
$10.
69.69.
Okay, integer field? All right, sure. All right, I'm going to make 2 more. Call out some books for me. Charlotte's Web.
Also,
Oh, really?
EB White.
Yeah, EB White. Yeah.
I'm gonna
Pretty sure.
skip that.
One of his many conflicts.
It's not Herman Melville? E.B. White.
Oh, you wouldn't have a closing quote on your Charlotte's Web.
Thank you, Syntax Heather and Ethan.
Charlotte's Web's about 200.
E.B. White. Oh gosh, what did I do? And the price?
free. 0. 10.
0.
Lord of the Rings.
Oh.
Which one?
The first one's called Lord of the Rings. Oh, Fellowship of the Ring. Just a little less than that.
No, I think
It's like
7. The Hobbit is probably 12.
I feel bad.
J-R.
JR.
R. 2 R's.
Yes, 4 names. Price?
$20.
All right. Now, let's see if these, oh, I have to save them, right?
That's it.
I have to invoke it.
Saves a part of the which library models, right? Is that why it works?
Is why what works?
Saves a method of libraries.
Oh,
Is a method within models.
within models, I just typed here because I'm lazy.
I'm just saying, you're invoking save, but that exists in the.
Oh, yes, yes.
The models
Yes,
library.
dot save is not a method that we define. It's one that's inherited.
Because we
From-
imported models.
So if you were to import models into a template file, could you invoke it the same way? Make it save form data to the database?
Yes, yes, we can. We have special form things that we're gonna go over in a second. I'm going to copy this straight into my shell. Uh-oh. B1? Oh, because I said B. All right, and if I refresh the page here, I have all my things. But how did they get here?
Comes from the,
Black smoke sealed inside of the
there's
box.
the edits inside, yeah. Just actually HTML.
So if I wanted to get the author and the price as well,
You have to first add it to the title.
I have to add it to the title headings.
And the title, table body needs to match. Variables.
And something to match here.
Yeah, this is great.
Right. So how did this data get here? For book in all books, we have book.title, book.pages, etc. Why is all books even defined here? Views.
Actually, all books.
Now, if I were to just get rid of this variable I made and spread this out,
So the
Just gonna-
context is in the box.
the third argument I give this render method will be a dictionary. And the dictionary will have any keys that I want to store my data in and variables. So I could just get rid of this entirely and type a little longer and say all books is going to be equal to book.objects.all, and it should still work. If I change the key by which to access this, then it's not going to work.
Change it in the template to books, then it should work.
Yes. Yep. If we go back to the template, which I closed, and I'm going to hit Command T to find it again. It's in my most recently, but I could just type book list, and it pops out. Hit Enter. And this is no longer defined, but we had changed it. And now it's back. So that's all. The render method allows us to pass in any variables, and we can call it anything we want by setting a key, and then the value is anything that these functions have access to.
The other piece of it is, I think that the request object is also passing in information. For example, if you're generating a form, when you hit submit on a form, all of the results from the form are passed in as part of the dictionary of the request object.
The request object will also contain information, and it would be nice to see what these things are. So I encourage you to just print things like what is request, and try and and see what it is in here. Now when I hit this, nothing is printed in my server yet, but when I refresh the page and hit this URL, you can see that something was printed. And it might not be too descriptive, but whenever you see a fancy object printed out in your console, all you have to do is Google it. So what is a WSGI request? And what methods does it have? You can read more. I'm not gonna actually delve into it. Another nice trick is in Python, have you used the dir method? Oh, not inside the print. Dir will give you a list of all the methods that this thing has available to it. So here we have a list, and each of these things are things that the request has available to it. And you can go through and let's try headers. So print request.headers. Is that? So here are my headers. Content length, remember content length? Content type, text. The host is localhost 8000. So we have a lot of information in this request object. We really get sidetracked too much. But I'm actually not gonna aim to finish this all the way, this CRUDing, but I want you to, after this, to actually go through and not copy and paste the whole file, but do it path by path.
I don't see how this is different than yesterday.
Okay, so this is a lot of repetition from yesterday. The new stuff will come when we want to create a new one. Where do we start? Oh, we still have a lot of time.
Create a new app.
Create a new book.
Oh, create a new book. So we want to make a form to create a new book. So what's the first thing we do when we're trying to make a new functionality?
We need to create
An app? We could still use the library app.
A new functionality within the app. So
A new book.
URL and view.
So which is first, the URL or the view?
the URL.
The URL is first. That's the first thing that gets activated when a user goes to a specific path. Now, the path I'm going to use is, first, before creating a new one, we're going to view a book. And this is some more review from yesterday. So when I say int, what does this syntax do? Jordan?
I take a stab at it, but I'm not positive. I think that will allow you to trace out whatever instance of the book you're looking for.
So I need to know which book.
And it should do that.
So if the path is slash, and we're letting it know that it's looking for an integer, in this whole thing, it's going to look for an integer. And when it sees an integer, it's going to, when it goes to book slash 50, it'll put 50 as the book ID. That's what this syntax is saying. So when I go to write this book view function, in my views.py, it's going to accept an additional parameter. And what's it going to be called?
PK for the book ID.
Sure.
It can be whatever.
It can be whatever I want.
IDs.
I called it book ID in the route, but
I like to keep it consistent.
yeah, keeping it consistent gives us less to remember. So I'm going to return what am I calling it? Book detail here. And I'm gonna make a book detail in my books folder. And this one is pretty simple, right? Just gonna paste it in here. Nothing new here. Okay, actually, this name route will blow up because I never named it. All right. And here we're just gonna render the book detail. What's gonna happen if I go to book/1?
Do that.
Looks like a typo.
Yeah.
Where is it from? What? Oh, book view line 8. Oh. All right. What? Nothing's there. Book to title pages. Why?
Because you don't have to pass it a book.
Yep. I haven't passed in anything here. There's no extra data. It's just rendering the HTML file straight up. And the HTML file.
Technically, you are passing additional data. You could define it in there that book equals book ID or book. You could write the code in brackets, I think, to do it there, but it's probably better to actually pass it in the whole book.
Yes, it would be nice to pass in the whole book, just the instance of the book. So, how do I find that book?
So book equals case book objects and filter ID equals book ID, I think.
All right.
You want a filter? You want a query set that has a single book object in it, or do you want just the object? itself?
Get maybe get.
Duck it, or we could have just grabbed the first one. So either way, and what am I gonna
Oh, that's
return book?
Oh, it's got to be a library, right? So.
All right. So here, yeah, a dictionary.
Dictionary. I'm sorry.
We are making a library up. Let's just set it as a variable so it's not too long. And you'll see people using data. You'll see people using context. Context is a nice word. Equals a dictionary. Quotes, because it's Python. And book.
But one thing I'm a little confused about is that you can, like let's say we did use filter, and there are multiple values within a table that we're pulling. How can you set it equal to, oh, okay, I see this thing. So the key changes, the key's not going to be book, it's going to be, yeah, to me it looks like it'd be one key for multiple values, but the key is dynamic also.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
You can have many keys. And you'll have another key accessible. This is terrible, but we could go in to the book detail and say, you can access the data that way. Does that make sense?
Well, I don't think I was asking my question right.
Okay.
So like, let's say we did book.objects.all, and you have 3 possible sets of data or rows that could be assigned with 1 key. I don't know.
So let's look at the book list. This is how we do it. We look at the HTML4 book list again.
I'm sorry, I missed your question.
Yeah, you use a book there in quotes, right?
Book,
in
yes,
quotes
in
is the
quotes.
key.
That's the key.
I don't understand what's happening there, that you can assign multiple values to 1 key.
You're assigning one value. You're assigning one object, which is a book, and that one object contains multiple things inside of it, but you're referencing it by the specific thing.
It would be.
So, okay, so it's an object with multiple rows of.
This is kind of like saying like
So let's look at the
dictionary.mydict. You're automatically past this dictionary, and it's just accessing the key inside it. You don't have to type this, but it's just accessing the dictionary that we passed it. Whenever you have any Python interpolated, it automatically looks to see if this is defined in the dictionary.
Yeah. So you're iterating over, you're looking at 1 key that has an object. That object is the value that's being iterated over. We're pulling multiple values through the template.
This could be a whole query
So that's
set.
what I'm having. So you're not iterating over keys. You're looking at 1 key and iterating over the object that's assigned to that key.
Yes.
And that's what's producing multiple books on the page.
Yes,
That's
not
what
in
we're
this
reading.
one, but in this one, yes.
Okay.
This is a whole query set. It's a list of many instances of book.
Okay.
And where's that one defined again? The books there on 13?
The books in 13?
Yes.
Oh, it's defined in here. It's passed as a dictionary to the render function. So now that we have the detail, let's add more detail. How do we added the price and the author. That's pretty straightforward, right?
Same thing, just dot date or dot author.
Price. And we should see all our things. All right. That's a little ugly. I'm gonna put some BRs. Okay. And now let's use the form. There's just a magic form class that Django has, which kind of takes some of the fun out of it, but it's very pretty and short, so we're gonna use it, and it's a nice thing that Django has. So I'm gonna make what's the first thing I want to make if I want to a URL? Yes. And we're gonna call this. I'm just trying to be consistent with the curriculum. We're gonna call it new, and it's gonna be called book create. I'm going to give it a name. And put a comma there. So where do I go next now that I've made my path?
Views.
Views. Specifically, can I, it doesn't make a magic link because I hadn't defined it.
Could you just click
So I just click
above
on
it?
views. It's too fancy. Def book create. And when I go to book/new, I should, yes, I hit this book create. Awesome. Now, what do I want to put here? So here's where we use our magic function, or class here, this form. It looks strange, but I can't really explain the syntactic sugar that is going on behind here. But when you look it up,
This is new for.
when you look it up, that is how they expect you to use this model form class that comes from Django.forms.
Model.
Oops. So I don't have model form here. I need to import it from Django.forms. All right. Now, it tells it that the model I'm talking about is book, and the fields that I want to be available in the form are going to be title, pages, author. These correspond directly to the columns in your database. Price. And in my create method, I'm going to have this code here, except I'm going to give it now. This form is going to be a new instance of book form, which we just defined here, and it inherits from model form. It will either be a post request that is given to this, this, keep on to say controller action. It's a view function. And if it's a post, then it'll go ahead and run through these. If it's not, it'll just display the form itself. That's what this syntax is here.
So book form is a class object inside there.
Yes, book form is a special model form object that we got from Django. And it makes things too easy. If the form is valid, so is valid is a function, is a method that they wrote, and it's going to validate the form. If it's valid, it'll save. And then after it saves, it'll redirect back to the book list. So you should see the list with the book you added. But that's if the form is valid. If it's not valid, it will render just like we rendered here. It'll render the form again. It'll render this form here, this form here, and we're just passing this variable in to distinguish for us whether it's a new book or an edit book. And we're just going to reuse this. What's up?
And also, like, I guess, like, if it's not, could we also return it with like an error message like, oh,
Yeah, we could.
would you do it here? Or would you do
An
it
error
like
message.
HTML?
I will leave that up to you. That's something I'm tasking to you. Make an error message when you do this. Okay. Now, when we go to the create now, template does not exist. Why is that? I need this thing here. I didn't even make it. New file, copy that in there. And then my form is going to be pretty simple. It's going to be, this is just the new. We have a value here of new. That's all that's going on. So this isn't required. It's just something we put in there to distinguish whether it's a new or edit, because we're going to use the same HTML file for both. There's a simple form. We have a token here to make sure it's coming from the right place. And we have form as P. What do you think as P means?
It means everything in that block within the form tag paragraph.
Yes, so it'll make P tags that describe what the field is. And then we have our submit button. And if we look here, we should have a template now. Take it a little while. My server running?
Your template's nested.
Oh, my template's nested?
Inside of books, you actually created
Oh, I did? Ah. I'm gonna, ooh, VS Code I can drag and drop, so that's fancy. I'm just delete this. Because I copied and pasted the whole directory and the whole path in there. Okay. And now we have all our form, they made it for us. And if I want to make a new one, what is it?
The Iliad.
The Iliad? Pages, oh. Spoken, it's spoken. Okay, author, Homer, and price, zero. Uh-oh. Oh no! Redirect is not defined. In what line? Line 17 in book create. Use up UI. Line 17. Oh, redirect isn't defined. Okay. It's gonna be from here. And oh, why did it do it twice?
Because it still existed in the form that we refreshed the page.
So this it broke on line 17, but line 16 already happened. And when we refreshed the page, we resubmitted the form, and it saved it again. But this time the redirect worked. And we have our handy dandy. We used to have to make 2 views. Anyway, we have our create here. Now our update is going to use the same form that we declared up here. And it's going to actually use the same template. But instead of giving it a new here, we're going to give it an edit, so it says edit, and we can distinguish between the two. And I'm just going to copy and paste it in here. Oop. So there's a lot of, the whole app is built out for you, like I said in the curriculum. And as long as you go through and, I don't like this, and do it route by route, you'll be able to actually learn from it. And this one is going to be, oh wait, was I editing the wrong one? Oh, I copied the wrong one. So this is the edit. And this method, I actually did it in the wrong order this time. I've been trying to drill it into your head, not to write the view function first, and to go to the URLs first. At this point, I've written out my function, but there's nowhere to go to actually activate it. What did I call it? There. And called it, excuse me, book edit. So here, if we go to update instead of new, we should see, this edit form. But I feel like I did something wrong here because which book am I editing?
Well, right now you're still saving, aren't you?
Am I saving it?
Yeah. You just copy the whole thing. Yeah, you're just gonna make it.
Oh, I did make another one. Uh-oh.
You should check if it exists in the database.
Yes.
You gotta create the view.
You're all right. So in the path, I need to specify which.
So
I'll have an int. How long have I been going? 40 minutes? Book ID, views dot book update.
Still same method.
And then in here, I'll have an extra parameter. Okay, and then in the template, it'll actually look a little different. I'm just gonna copy and paste it. The update. I'm gonna have a get object or 404 method that comes from Django shortcuts. Where am I? Okay. And I will get this book, or it won't, by this ID. And then in this method here, I'm going to add an instance, and it's going to equal this book. Why do you think that is? Why do I need this book?
Giving it the memory address.
So you can correlate the form data to what exists in the database.
Yeah, so when you edit something on a website, what do you see when you open the form? Is it edit slash? It's edit slash. It pre-fills the form with the data in that instance. And that's just some auto magic from this book form and passing it this instance.
Well, let's say you want to search, you want to put it by the title of the book, you just change it. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So if I want to edit this book, Charlotte's Web, didn't it have a sequel?
Yes.
I forget what it was called.
Oh, Charlotte's Web.
Oh wait, maybe. Huh. Yeah, maybe there was no sequel. No. All right, it updated, and so now we have our create, our read, and our update. And I'm gonna have you do the just delete on your own. Everything is in the curriculum made already, so I think you should pair. And yeah, today's Tuesday, so we want you pairing today and go through each route and actually create, update, and delete. And you'll also add table columns to have links for each of those, for each of these things.
Yeah, no,
Go to your
yeah, sounds good.
All right, let me stop recording.